Tell me a little bit about the car business. You and I were talking before we started about how you've seen it is changing. How is the car selling, everything starting to change?
It's definitely changed. There is so much information available to consumers now that most of the time when the customer comes in the dealership, they know just as much about the car, if not more, than we do. They're asking very detailed questions. They want to touch and feel. And a lot of times customers are making decisions quicker because they already know everything. As far as availability, the car inventory has improved over the past few years since COVID, but you got to work extra hard to get a customer, and it's really all about customer service at this point.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden, and on today's episode, we have Carlie Rye, who is a marketing sort of extraordinaire. She's done a lot of different things. She was with Country Superstars 102.3 with her father for many years on the radio, but now she's with Universal Chevrolet. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about what she does with Universal Chevrolet, the evolving of the car business and cars in general. And we're going to talk a little bit on this episode about her involvement with the Cleveland Christmas Parade and the Light Up Clayton, the downtown, I used to call it the Christmas tree lighting, which I think is coming up on December 5th of this year. And then we're going to do a second episode. We're going to talk to her a little bit more about marketing and how to brand yourself. So come back in a couple of weeks and listen to that one. Welcome, Carlie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right. And like I said, before we get started, as I always say, please like, follow, subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it. You'll be made aware of future episodes of the Best Johnston County Podcast. The Best Johnston County Podcast comes out every single Monday, and we enjoy doing it, and we have a lot of great guests. I think you'll enjoy listening to it. If this is your first time, go back and listen to the previous ones and keep following us, because I think you will find this as fascinating as we do bringing it to you, because I learn something in every single episode, no doubt. So cool. All right, Carlie. So what's your name? What do you do?
So Carlie Rye, and my official title is Public Relations Manager at Universal Chevrolet, which is downtown Wendell. And you don't see many car dealerships that are officially on Main Street anymore. But if you were to ask the guys that I work with what I do, they'd probably say driving them crazy, because I've had us doing all kinds of shenanigans. They've been in elf costumes. They just were in high heels for the Harbor Shelter Walk in Her Shoes event. But really just trying to drive traffic in the store and inform people on their car buying experience and decisions.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Well, we'll get to that in a second. So where'd you grow up? I know your father is a great guy. I've known your father for many years. So a little bit about your background and how you got started into sort of radio, public relations, stuff like that.
So I grew up in Goldsboro. I attended Charles B. Aycock High School. You've probably been to that school before. We used to have a good football team.
Yeah. Pikeville.
Yes.
Pikeville Aycock.
Yes.
Used to go there with WRL when I worked at Football Friday.
Yes, and that was like the big event of Friday night. That's what everybody did. Started working at AT&T after I graduated, and that's kind of where I got into merchandising and learning how to sell and managing people. And then my dad, opened the local Johnston County's first FM radio station, and I started working with him. I was exposed to radio my whole life, but working with your dad can be a blessing and a curse, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a good time. You remember what year y'all started Country Superstars?
2014 or 2015.
Right.
It's going to get me.
Because your dad had an entire career, I guess, with Curtis Media in Raleigh. And he came out here and he started that. And I thought that was great. And he did a ton of promoting and was really about small business. And he was all about Johnston County, just like we're on this podcast.
Right.
I mean, I really appreciated what he was trying to do and bring a focus here to this county. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were able to give local businesses a voice and to be able to be heard by thousands and talk about being embedded in the community. Gosh, I learned so much about all the resources and programs that are in Johnston County.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, but then I guess your dad decided to sell the radio station, maybe a year and a half ago?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he retired to the beach.
He did.
It's a tough life.
Yeah.
I saw him the other day. He had his tan. he was headed back to the beach when I talked to him. So I kind of wanted to go with him.
So now my dad's entertainment is when all these telemarketers call, he just messes with them on the phone and tells them all this silly stuff. That's what he does for a full time.
So, well, that's good. So you end up going to work, I guess, after you sold the radio station. I guess of Universal Chevy. So, and it's in Wendell, and it's really in downtown. You don't have many downtown car dealerships anymore. And downtown Wendell is coming back. Most of the shops are full now, and they have the great barbecue place. So, I mean, there's plenty of stuff to do.
And they really back right up to Johnston County, too. I mean, if you drive a mile outside of Wendell, you're in JoCo.
Well, and there are people in Johnston County, whether people realize it or not, they have Wendell mailing addresses.
That's right.
There's people in Johnston County with Zebulon mailing addresses, Wendell mailing addresses. We deal with it all the time. We go file something at the courthouse. The clerks always say, okay, is that in Johnston County? Yes, we have checked. It is in Johnston County. I know it's Zebulon. I know it's Wendell. We have Andrew in Johnston County.
Garner.
We have Garner right here where my office is here at 4042. So we have all these postal codes that come in. We have Dunn in Johnston County on the southern end. So you just can't always go by the postal code as to what county a town, or because postal codes cross county lines. We've talked about that before. So tell me a little bit about the car business. You and I were talking before we started about how you've seen it is changing. How is the car selling, everything starting to change?
It's definitely changed. There is so much information available to consumers now that most of the time when the customer comes in the dealership, they know just as much about the car, if not more, than we do. They're asking very detailed questions. They want to touch and feel. And a lot of times customers are making decisions quicker because they already know everything. As far as availability, the car inventory has improved over the past 2 years since COVID, but you got to work extra hard to get a customer. And it's really all about customer service at this point.
Right. I don't disagree. And it's the same thing. And, we're divorce lawyers here. People come in, they may have already read the book I wrote. They've been on the website. They've been researching, and they often will know a lot more than customers knew just 3 or 4 years ago. And I think that is a good thing, because I think,
Sure.
If you're going to go through a divorce, knowing what your rights are is important in helping you make the decisions moving forward, so that you don't sort of get hoodwinked a little bit. How's that affected the car business, with the customers being more knowledgeable?
Well, it depends. So like commercial customers are a completely different breed. They come in, they need that truck to get back on the road because they got work they got to do, and that truck is making them money. But for the average customer, is it for their wife, or do they have a new baby on the way? I don't know. It could go either way, really. Right. EV customers tend to take the longest time to buy because they really want to know every little thing. Talk about doing their homework. They're doing their homework.
Right. So how many different types of EV cars does Chevrolet have?
Oh, great question. So let's see. We have the Equinox, the Blazer, the Silverado. They're making the EV Corvette and a van. So that would be 5.
Okay. And what is the distance they can go?
Around 300 miles tends to be the average. Chevrolet actually has the most affordable EV as far as range, with over 300 miles, and that would be the Equinox.
Okay. Well, and I guess the question I have about EVs, these electric vehicles, is the number and the availability of charging stations.
Great question.
I know Tesla has done a pretty decent job, but the Tesla charging stations, I don't believe, are universal. They're kind of for Tesla. So I really almost wish there were universal charging stations, kind of like there's universal unleaded gas. But anyway, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you are exactly right. And so what they have done now is Chevrolet has come out with an adapter that you can use to plug into those Tesla stations, because they have done a great job. I think there's over 26,000 charging stations across the country. So now if you buy that adapter, you can use those charging stations. And I mean, they're constantly adding more. The best thing for an EV customer to do would be to install one of those level 2 chargers at their home.
Okay, what's that?
So that is the charger that you can plug your car in overnight, and you wake up in the morning, you're 100% charged. And then that way you can charge it every day when you go home.
Right, I got you. Yeah, my only thought about, I have a hybrid vehicle, which is not an electric vehicle, but gets pretty good gas mileage. So that's something for the environment. If I start off on a trip, how many times would I have to stop if I was trying to go to Pennsylvania or Florida?
And that's completely, I get it. That's a reasonable point. Some people have an EV and then they have another car. Or you could stop at, say, a Sheetz, and those fast chargers, you can charge your car 100 miles in 10 minutes. So a lot of times, people will plan their route and they'll go eat while their car is charging. And by the time they're done eating, they're at 100% charged.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So Sheetz has chargers. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that because I
Yeah.
don't have an electric car.
And then, of course, bigger cities, but you would kind of have to do your homework and kind of know
Right.
where you were going.
So the difference between the electronic version of these 4 or 5 vehicles that Chevrolet has and the gas, what are the differences? I'm assuming the electric car is way less.
Great. Yeah, they do. They actually do weigh less. And there's really low maintenance because now with that regenerative braking, the battery is doing the braking. So there's no oil changes. You really don't have to change the brakes and do your rotors. So tires.
I didn't even think about not brakes. So
Yeah.
the battery does the braking.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I hit the brakes, what happens?
Did I just teach you something?
You did, right? I didn't know that, right? So if I hit the brakes, I'm actually slowing the battery down, and that's what slows the car down?
Well, so it depending on how you have that car, sometimes when you take your foot off the gas, the car is automatically starting to stop. So it takes a little bit of getting used to when you're driving an EV because you'll find yourself doing this for a minute, but you'll get used to it. But yeah, it's charging the battery.
Okay. So are the features the same between the gas-powered ones? I know they're lighter, so where do they save that weight?
Where do they save the weight? Can I phone a friend?
Yeah, you might have to phone a friend. I don't know. I'm curious. I was just curious because I know they have to be lighter.
Right.
But I was just curious, are they made of a different metal? I just don't know.
Well, with them being lighter, one of the things that happens is the car, it is a true high-performance vehicle. That sucker will go. It'll get up and go. Just 0 to 60 in just a few seconds.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So what are some of the things that y'all are doing at Universal Chevrolet to delineate yourselves in this market? There are lots of places to buy a car. You're in Wendell, small town. What are y'all doing to stand out in a crowded field?
So we really just want to treat people right, and we want to give them the information that they need the first time. So we're trying to brand ourselves as anything transportation related. Let us help you. If you got a question about a part, if you have a teenager that's getting ready to be driving, if your car has a recall, just anything, let us help. And a lot of our business ends up being referrals or repeat customers because they felt like they got treated right. We've been in business for 92 years, same family. You don't see that often.
You don't see that often. That's true.
And I have to say, you don't stay in business that long if you're not treating people right. Very embedded in the community, involved, and people kind of get to know us. Our crazy shenanigans that I was referring to.
Right.
They're like, oh, you guys are so funny. You look like such a fun place to work. So when they want to go buy a car, where do they think they're going to have fun at?
Do y'all service the cars there too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So you service things other than Chevrolets?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. How do people get in touch with Universal Chevrolet other than driving to Wendell?
UniversalChevy.com. You can go online, find my phone number, email Carlie@universalchevy.com. And again, anything transportation related, we can help. We got it. We're a medium truck duty dealer, which means we service trucks all the way up to 6,500. So like big dump trucks, landscape trucks, things like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, now let's transition, talk a little bit about, you do so much community service. You probably do more than me, and I do a fair amount. I'm not tooting my own horn, but like, if there was somebody that does more than I do, it's definitely you. Let's talk about some of the things that you're involved in. You've continued to, even after you've left the radio station, to MC and help with events all over this county, right?
Yeah, I had no idea how many friends I would make at the radio station, and I still consider them friends. And all the causes and the events are great causes. So how can you say no to that?
I can understand. I understand that, right? You got a lot going on, because you do have a regular job and all that. So one of the things I know that's coming up is the Cleveland Christmas Parade, which is done now by the fire department, which is Chris Ellington and Kim Lauder have sort of taken that over after our Chamber of Commerce went out of business and was sort of absorbed into the Smithfield Chamber of Commerce when it became Triangle East right before COVID started at the end of 2019. And so I know that's coming up, and I guess you're the MC for that parade?
First Tuesday in December, December 3rd, also the MC for the July 4th Independence Day Parade. But what I love about the Cleveland Parade is, one, it's a nighttime parade, which means your Christmas lights look so pretty. And two, you can pre-register, but you can just show up that day. And that makes it fun because someone that maybe didn't prepare and they found out that there's a parade 2 days from now, they can still be in it and advertise their business or their civic group, their church or whatnot. And you just make a lot of friends.
And they don't charge $1 million to be in it or any of that. It's really...
And they throw candy.
they do. And there's golf carts and tractors and horses and a little bit of everything in the Cleveland parade. It is not the more professional parade that you would see in Clayton, which is always the second Saturday in December. Played the Santa Claus in that parade for many, many years when the Chamber of Commerce had that parade. When Sally Slinwine was the head of the chamber there. Now it's Dana Wooten, who was a guest a few episodes ago on the Best of Johnston County podcast. But you also are involved what I used to just call the tree lighting in downtown Clayton. I think it's kind of evolved from that. What is that?
It is a whole night of festivities. So that's Thursday, December 5th. That'll be 2 nights after the Cleveland Christmas Parade. And that typically starts around 5 o'clock where they have a live nativity. They have a train station set up or a mini train station. They have a parade. They have this middle schools, elementary and high school students singing. You can make reindeer food. It is a map. And there is so many things going on up and down Main Street that it looks like something out of a Christmas movie.
Well, and it really has taken over Main Street. Years ago, it started with they lit the tree in the park. And it's just kind of grown from there. And now almost all the businesses in downtown Clayton are involved and all of that. And if you've not been to that in a few years or if you've never been to it, I would highly recommend it.
Same.
It is so much fun. And everybody is so nice and people are getting in the spirit. And this year we kind of have a condensed holiday spirit because Thanksgiving is as late as it can be.
I know.
Thanksgiving cannot be later than the 28th because it's the fourth Thursday. It really can't be later than 28th. So we have a much shorter time between Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. Sometimes you get a whole other week when it's like the 23rd or 22nd. So it'll definitely be getting in the spirit right after Thanksgiving. So where are you at for that? Where do you do the part where you talk and introduce everybody? Where is that at? Because I know it's all of downtown, but they only do the speaking at one end.
So at Town Square. And so we'll have different groups, schools coming every 20 minutes. So I'll be Town Square. And then the mayor, Jody McLeod, will light the Christmas tree. 7 o'clock hour, they'll have some awards for the stores with the best storefront that's decorated. And they'll announce the Community Spirit Award, Miss and Mrs. Claus.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that is a tremendous event. The Cleveland Parade is also nice. They also have food trucks and vendors there at the fire department. And that's going to be on Tuesday, December 3rd. The Clayton Christmas tree lighting, which is more of a celebrate downtown lighting of the town, really, in Clayton. That's going to be on Thursday, December 5th this year. So definitely go out and participate in both of those. If you really are into this stuff, Andrew has a great one as well. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. It might be that Saturday, the 7th, but I'm not sure. But Andrew's got a live nativity as well. They do a nice job there. All the towns really do.
I was going to say, there's no way you cannot be in the Christmas spirit in Joco or Harnett County because there is so many things going on.
There's no doubt about that. So the last question we'll ask you on this episode of the Best Johnston County Podcast, which is what we ask everybody, is what do you love most about Johnston County?
Oh, my goodness. You know what? I love that each individual town kind of has a unique feel, and I can relate to every town. The fact that you can go to Benson, to Clayton, to Four Oaks, shoot over to Selma and find a nice cold drink. We've definitely made a lot of progress with our social districts. So I'd probably say that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's great. We'd like to thank Carlie Rye for being our guest on this episode of the Best Johnston County Podcast. Check back in a couple of weeks. We have another episode with her where she's going to talk about how to brand your business, how to brand yourself, some things she learned in radio, and a little bit more about marketing and some of the other community service she's involved in. So if you enjoyed this episode, check back for the next one we'll hear in a few weeks. Like I said earlier, please like, follow, subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it, whether it be Apple, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, or any of those places so that you'll be aware of future episodes of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. Also, you do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review down at the bottom so that it will raise our visibility so other people will be aware of this podcast. And if you'd be nice enough to tag the Best of Johnston County Podcast in your Instagram stories, it will help spread our reach to others who may not have heard about it.
We could do a TikTok dance.
A TikTok dance?
Yeah.
I've done a TikTok dance.
You have?
I have. They made me do one. It was not good. But anyway, till next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.